Okay, so the world still hasn't woken up to Zionism. This is Palestine, an open-air prison with millions of people in it. Yeah, Palestine. So now I've got to come on here and educate everybody about how this place was actually called Palestine for a really, really long time. Did you know that Israel was created in 1948? Because this is Palestine. What most people don't know is that Israel is not a country. It is an occupation of Palestine since 1948. We're talking about a military occupation that's been going on for 75 plus years. 75 plus years. I want you to imagine how you would act if your home's name was changed and it had been stolen, and your neighborhoods were stolen, and your kids were arrested, and they were held indefinitely, and bombs were dropped because everybody wants to think that you're a terrorist, even though you have no recourse for the situation you're in. Ask yourself why none of these old maps label the region Israel. Why? Because it's not Israel. And the Torah is not a land contract. I bet you didn't know that Palestine was gifted to the Zionists in 1917 by Lord Balfour, called the Balfour Declaration. Notice the name up in the corner, Lord Rothschild. That's right. The region of Palestine was gifted to Lord Rothschild in 1917. True story. If you think these people are terrorists that deserve this, you are sadly mistaken. These people live like this. This isn't just recently. They stay like this because Israel is always on the offensive. Then there's this POS, Benjamin Netanyahu, aka Bibi. Yeah, this guy's a complete warmonger, a remnant of the George Bush era of ultra right-wing fascism. That's right, this man is a right-wing fascist, a militaristic, blood-soaked monster. And before you go getting it twisted, the definition of a Semite is a member of any of the peoples who speak or spoke a Semitic language, including in particular Jews and Arabs. That's right. So every time Israel does something against Palestinians, it's anti-Semitic. That's right. Learn the definition. And let's add to that anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism are not the same thing. Okay? So what is Zionism? Good question. The difference between Zionism and Judaism is extreme. Judaism is a religion. They practice the Mosaic law, thou shalt not kill, and that is a good thing. Zionism, however, is not Judaism. It is a movement for the reestablishment and the development and protection of a Jewish nation that is now Israel. See the difference? Judaism is not Zionism. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, plain and simple. They're not going to show these images on the news. Oh no, because the mainstream media is controlled by Zionism. So you're not going to see Palestinians carrying their children around on the nighttime news. You're just going to hear how Israel needed to do this in self-defense. Yeah. I am so burnt out on their nonsense. This is clearly Palestine. This is 1750. Where's the Israel? There was no Israel. Israel's an occupation. And yet another map, this one from 1767, Palestine. I'm exhausted, and the people of Palestine must really be exhausted. So, please, share the truth, spread the truth. This is the truth. Palestine has been under attack for 75 plus years by the occupation of Israel. It's been said. And just to give you an idea of how long I've been standing up for this issue, here's a video clip of me with my old name, Chris Phillips, without a beard, 10 years ago, on Fox News, on Sean Hannity, in front of the entire world. Here we go, roll the tape.
Freedom of speech in America.
Anti-Semitism. I asked you a question. Do you have a problem with anti-Semitism?
Listen, I don't like hate. I don't like hate. Is that clear enough? I don't like hate.
Is anti-Semitism hate?
A lot of times, anti-Islam is hate.
I asked you if anti-Semitism is hateful.
You certainly lack credibility.
Is anti-Semitism hateful?
Yes, absolutely. But anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism.
Judy?
I believe that Israel has a powerful stranglehold on the American government. They control both members of the House and the Senate. They have us involved in wars of which we have little or no interest. Our children are coming back in body bags. Our nation is bankrupt over these wars. And if you open your mouth, you get targeted. And if they don't beat you at the poll, they'll put you in prison.
Explain to me what you see as, why you target or why you have a grudge against the Israelis.
The grudge is not necessarily a grudge. It's an objective assessment that no one will have the courage to speak about. They're controlling much of our foreign policy. They're influencing much of our domestic policy. Wolfowitz, as Undersecretary of Defense, manipulated President Bush #2 back into Iraq. They pushed definitely to try and get Bush before he left to move into Iran. We're conducting an expansionist policy of Israel, and everybody's afraid to say it. They control much of the media, they control much of the commerce of the country, and they control powerfully both bodies of the Congress. They own the Congress.
Are you an anti-Semite?
No, I'm not. That's exactly what they're going to say, and I expect that. What I am is an American. You see, I think America comes first, and we have a one-sided foreign policy in the Mideast, and we've alienated Arabs who have no way of fighting. So what they've done, and I predicted this on the House floor, is they would export violence to America, and they have. They have no other way to fight. I think President Obama knows this. I think he sees this. I think he wants to do something. I think his hands are tied. And I think he's dancing between the raindrops, trying to figure how I can politically machinate some scenario to mitigate these problems. Greta, I'm saying this. America is in danger if America doesn't take back the government without foreign interference.
Our next speaker is Gabriel Miller.
I would like to add my voice to the chorus here today in opposition to this ridiculous resolution. At a time when the rest of the world is condemning Israel for committing war crime after war crime, Chicago is fiddling around on whether to condemn Hamas. By doing so, Chicago will be doing its part in enabling the genocide of Palestinians. And this resolution acts like it's on the side of innocent civilians. So in that case, I'd like to ask, are you considering a resolution condemning Israel for using white phosphorus against the civilian population? Are you considering condemning Israel for its planned war crime of forced removal of 1 million Palestinians from northern Gaza? Are you going to condemn them for cutting off food, water, and electricity to Gaza, another war crime called collective punishment? Did it ever cross your mind to condemn Israel when they assassinated Palestinian journalist Shireen Abu Akleh in broad daylight, or when they brutalized the people carrying her coffin peacefully, or when Israeli snipers killed innocent peaceful protesters throughout the March of Return? Did the people in office before you ever consider condemning Israel at any point? Since its inception, when it crammed a country full of people into a 60-mile corner of their own country, creating the largest concentration camp in history, the largest open-air prison in the world? The answer is a resounding no. You never considered it, nor did your ancestors. But unfortunately for you, times have changed. The world is increasingly aware of the crimes of Israel and increasingly aware of the framework of politicians who enable their continued apartheid by resolutions such as these. And in a city like Chicago, with majority black and brown people who have experienced the apartheid-like conditions of oppression in the United States, a generation of young people have emerged who understand immediately that we have everything in common with the Palestinian people and nothing in common with the brutal Zionists under who they suffer. A generation of people who are not surprised when we find out that our politicians, up to our president, spread lies about 40 babies being beheaded in order to rationalize genocide. We're only surprised that they're forced to walk those lies back. But of course, the damage is done. People are still spewing the debunked lies about rape and massacre of babies, even here in this very meeting, when actually there is endless evidence of Israel having killed over 500 babies in the last 48 hours alone, having dropped more bombs in 24 hours than the U.S. dropped on Afghanistan in 1 year. And finally, let it be known that condemning the attack as the actions of some fringe group misses the point of what's going on. The attacks were carried out by a broad coalition of groups from every section of Palestinian society, not just Hamas. That coalition represents a people determined to attain freedom at any cost, and they have arrived at this point in the face of a broad coalition of right-wing Zionists and their supporters like those in the city council who would start a meeting with a prayer calling for their attempts at freedom, a second Holocaust where are so silent you could hear a rat piss on cotton when innocent, peaceful Palestinians are annihilated day in and day out like the Native Americans of this country. If it were another time, these same people would be condemning Africans for rebelling against their slave masters during slavery, such as Nat Turner or in the Haitian Revolution. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Please.
Nah, because what we're not going to do is fall for the same shit we did right after 9/11. Since Saturday, Western news outlets were widely sharing stories about sexual assault and beheaded babies, when now it's coming out that the IDF will refuse to provide evidence of these claims, and the LA Times had to go back and admit that the claims about sexual assault were unsubstantiated. This would not be the first time that Western governments or media have lied in order to justify war. And this reminds me of the fake 1990 account of Naira al-Saba, who testified during the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait that she saw Iraqi soldiers disconnect incubators at hospitals and kill hundreds of babies. Her testimony was cited by 7 senators to justify the use of force in entering the Gulf War. Later on, though, it turned out that she was the daughter of a Kuwaiti diplomat and that the testimony was organized by a public relations committee set up by the Kuwaiti embassy, described by the New York Times as a Washington, D.C.-based committee comprised of concerned Kuwaitis and Americans. In 2003, Bush lied to us on public TV saying Iraq had weapons of mass destruction to justify the invasion of Iraq. That turned out to be BS, and the price of that BS was hundreds of thousands of Iraqi lives. Like, remember, the U.S. and a lot of really powerful people in the U.S. have a big stake in Israel. I mean, Biden said it himself.
Israel in this body for apologizing for our support for Israel. There's no apology to be made. None. It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region.
I'm begging y'all to search for evidence and not fall into the emotional traps laid by Zionists, arms dealers, imperialists, and war criminals that will allow them to justify their ongoing 70-year genocide against the Palestinian people. Because let's remember what Malcolm X warned us about. If you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people being oppressed and loving the people doing the oppressing.